You're welcome back. You're still watching Business Morning on Channels Television. Well, it's time to talk about digital freight, a platform that is mandating the connecting of Africa to global trade by simplifying shipping process for SMEs and large enterprises across the African continent. We're talking about OnePort 365. And OnePort 365 seeks to make doing business easier for small and medium enterprises as their role, talk about SMEs now, increasing employment and driving the economy cannot be overemphasized. Obviously, that's why they have decided to focus on that. So we have Mr. Hioshola Osidame. He is a partner at OnePort 365 to tell us their business and how they're connecting SMEs in the country or in the world globally.
That's correct.
Good to have you here.
Thank
Welcome
you very
to the
much for having
show.
me on the session this morning. Thank you.
So what's your business, OnePort 365?
So OnePort 365 is what we will call a digital freight management platform. It's a startup that's purely focused on supporting Africa's cross-border traders in regards to their trade across the world. Now, it's a major challenge for most cross-border traders in Africa due to infrastructural challenges, due to challenges associated with pricing, due to challenges associated with processing. What we've been able to do is simplify that process using the power of technology to ensure that there's as much visibility and the booking process is as easy and simple as possible.
Okay, can you paint a picture of how your business is actually helping this sector?
Okay, so I'll give you a typical scenario, right? So let's say you are a cocoa farmer,
right,
or let's say you are a ginger farmer sat in Kachia, Kaduna, right? And you're trying to export like 1,000 tons of ginger to, let's say, Rotterdam, Holland. Typically, you're having to deal with different middlemen involved in the value chain. You're having to deal with a trucking firm. You're having to deal with a clearing agent, like we call it in Nigeria. You're having to deal with a shipping line. You're having to deal with a terminal, right? And the whole process can be so complex and quite cumbersome because of pricing efficiencies and because of numerous middlemen involved in the value chain. What we've been able to do is simplify that process, put everybody involved in the value chain onto a platform, and enable traders, cross-border traders, to be able to go on there and book their shipment as easy as possible, simplifying that process. Now, the second thing is this, providing technology to support that with visibility. For 78% of the trucks on Nigerian roads have no visibility on them. What does that mean? There are no trackers, right? And for so many containers moving on the roads in Nigeria, the value of the goods they're carrying run into hundreds of millions. Now imagine the fact that you're having a truck that has no visibility on it and you're having to rely on someone to tell you the position of these containers. What does that mean? You are at high risk. We provide visibility on the shipments, which is super important for the consumers for the cross-border traders who book via our platform. And that's a very, very key value addition to the product.
You work a lot with technology.
Yes, it's tech-driven, right from the booking process down to the documentation process, down to the visibility on the shipments and the cargo. We are purely focused on containerized cargo. That's a key differentiator, right? And then we work mostly with traders who are exporting or importing to the African markets.
What about challenges at the ports? How are you able to overcome that?
Well, we constantly keep working with the regulators and having fantastic conversations with the regulators, namely the ports authorities, NEXIM, Nigeria Export-Import Bank, and also the terminals in Lagos have been super supportive, as well as the terminals in One. It's always going to be a challenge, but we're also seeing adaptation of technologies in some of the processes that isn't the export or import process. There's been a lot of digitization around the trailer parks heading into Apapa ports. Has it eased the process 100%? Not entirely, but there's an improvement on the process, which is a step in the right direction. We're seeing that being introduced currently to Tinkan Island Port as well, and we're hoping for the best with that as well. So yeah, we're seeing changes. It's a gradual process. Are we there yet? Not at all.
So an SME operator watching this program will be like, oh, this sounds good, but isn't this an extra cost to me?
Oddly enough, it's not. Typically on transactions, we save between 15 and 18% to most of the SMEs who book via our platform, which is mostly because we can actually operate at scale using technology and we can simplify the process. Now, for the SMEs as well, we also support them in what we call trade finance, which means basically we allow them focus on their trading and we can cover the cost in regards to the logistics, whereby they can pay back over a period of time. So we support them on their process. We're key lovers of SMEs.
Right.
SMEs are the brainchild of every government, and we're supporters of SMEs.
Okay, so what routes does OnePort 365 currently service, and what are the other routes you're looking to, in the future?
So currently, we would say we've covered as much as 80% of Nigeria, in terms of we've served as much as 80% of Nigerian states in the 36 states in Nigeria. So we've covered a large proportion of the country, and that's a fantastic one for us. So we've had shipments either originate from those locations or be delivered to those locations. We're looking to scale past that to 36 states in Nigeria by the end of this year. We're also firm believers this is a Pan-African solution, which is a key thing for us. We're looking to get started in Q4 in the Ghanaian market, which we think is interesting. By the end of 2022, we should be across 8 countries in Africa. We're aggressive in terms of our growth.
Very aggressive.
Yeah, I know, very aggressive in terms of our growth. And we see massive opportunities across Africa. We think Kenya is an interesting market. We think Cameroon is an interesting market. And the cocoa hubs in the Ivory Coast also is an interesting market for us. So we're quite excited about the opportunity to scale across Africa.
Yeah, it will be very exciting to have a Nigerian company, you know, in all these places.
Yes.
I think to be a thing of pride.
Correct.
But another thing is that, I mean, you are also going to be operating in the same environments that these SMEs, the normal challenges, the infrastructure challenges, the insecurity challenges.
Right.
Now, how do you assure your clients that these things will not stop your delivery as you have promised them? Because, I mean, you can still say, oh, you know, we're operating in the same Nigerian environment. I have the same challenge as you have. So what assurance do you have for your clients to ensure that in spite of this, we've got this covered?
Right. So we have, I think a key thing that's a plus for clients revolves around visibility around shipments. And that has always been a key driver that we offer on our shipments, on the shipments that we load either for import or export. We can provide visibility. Yes, the market is tough. We understand that, right? But to a large extent, despite the challenges, we still have shipments that originate even from northeastern part of Nigeria, and we have shipments that originate across the country. So despite tough challenges, despite the economic situation, we're super excited about Nigeria, and we think there are massive opportunities to continue to grow in this market.
Right. So, you know, Nigeria is an import, dependent
Correct, yes.
country. Do you
Yeah.
think your business could, encourage, more of exportation, for Nigeria?
Oh, yes. Yes. So for us, that would actually be a fantastic plus for us. We think there are opportunities to grow across processing zones, right? So rather than continue to export raw materials, we're talking of cashew, cocoa, and ginger. Processing zones can come into place and basically be a processor for this small-scale farmers, commercial farmers who can increase their productivity and look at the international market as a single market. We're super excited also about the African Free Trade Continental Agreement, which is kicking in, which hopefully should be kicking in anytime soon. And we're very positive the trader who trades in Dawano market in Kano can equally see Takoradi in Ghana as an equal market and an equal opportunity to Lagos for him. So yes, we're very, very, very key drivers of the opportunities to grow. And we hope eventually we'll continue to work with organizations such as Nexim Bank in terms of scaling the opportunity for exporters.
Okay, so what's your secure financial investment strategy?
Okay, so in terms of financial investment strategy, we are very much a startup, which means we are heavily backed by venture capitalist firms who understand very much the importance of digitizing this process in Africa, right? The world is a global village. So if Africa is left behind, right, and people are still having to do pen and paper to carry files and move files everywhere and having to call up an agent and call up this, call up that, and work with an opaque system, Africa will be left behind. So we're heavily backed by venture capitalist firms who understand what we're trying to do, and that gives us a level to support SMEs and manufacturers across the market.
What's your strategy for expansion?
Our strategy for expansion is continue to expand across the key markets in Africa, right? So that's why I mentioned earlier markets such as Ghana, markets such as Kenya. We see Ivory Coast as an interesting place as well. We look at the Southern African basin, and we also think there are massive opportunities out there. So we're aggressive in terms of the way we our approach to the market, in terms of expansion, and we see the opportunities as endless. A key driver for that is the African Free Trade Continental Agreement, which is a positive execution for us.
Yeah, talking about the AfCFTA, very interesting and a lot of potentials there.
Very correct. Yes.
So how are you working with the government? Are you working with maybe the NACIMA, LCCI? Who are those you're working on? What's the strategy? So it's not just, oh, this is an exciting idea,
yes,
and it ends or dies an idea.
Right. So currently we're working in partnership with C-Link. C-Link is a brainchild of Nexim, that's Nigerian Export-Import Bank. And the purpose of C-Link is to simplify the process of trade across Africa to a large extent. I'll give you a typical example. You're trying to ship, let's say, sesame seed to Bujumbura in Burundi, right? I'll tell you what, the typical movement of that cargo is it goes to Europe first of all, sits in Europe for a couple of weeks, and then comes down to East Africa. The whole process of moving cargo just from Lagos port down to the port of Mombasa in Kenya can take between 6 to 8 weeks. Why? Right? So the main purpose of C-Link is to simplify the transit process and the movement of cargo within Africa. A lot of the shipping routes are still very much the shipping routes that were established in the pre-colonial era. We need to start working together as a single market in Africa, and that's why we're key drivers of C-Link in terms of the expansion of C-Link across Africa, and something we're very excited about.
All right, so can I access your service like on my phone, or how does it work?
So we're very much web-based right now. We have a web portal that gives you a channel to go on there and make your bookings. Almost as easy as booking a flight ticket to fly from Lagos to Abuja. You can book your containerized cargo from origin down to destination on there. You don't need to call anybody. You don't need to send an email. You go on there and then you get what we call almost like a price comparison site. Based on your budget, based on your cost, based on your transit time, you can book the services on there and you can get 100% execution.
Okay, so you mentioned that you also want to connect with the SMEs in the process of not just exporting raw materials, you know, but at least processing it is the conversation we had just before you came into the studio. So, so do you work with them? Do you do the issue of processing? Do you do the issue of quality?
Quality, yeah.
Because, I mean, when it comes to exporting, one of the factors, especially in agricultural products, is sometimes they send it and they find, oh, there are some insects and stuff like that. And these have spoiled brands.
Very correct.
And a lot of countries who don't have confidence in...
I mean, I'm talking of that a couple of years ago, hibiscus originating from Nigeria was as good as banned in the Mexican market. Right? Because basically it gets there and then you see issues around pesticides, and then, you know, quality was a major issue. We support SMEs in regards to that. We have partners who can provide that service in terms of quality checks. We also support SMEs in linking them with potential buyers across those markets, right? And that's a key thing. So many people want to get involved in cross-border trade, but the question is, who is a buyer? Can I get a reliable buyer? We can provide that support where possible. And then in terms of quality checks, in terms of quality control, we're happy to actually support SMEs on that service.
Sounds like a one-stop shop for
everything.
Right. Cross-border trade, you should be looking at OnePort 365.
So is it just SMEs, or do you have is it just agriculture?
Oh, so we work with some of the top mining firms in Nigeria. Yeah, so we work with a lot of miners who are based out of northern Nigeria. We work with agro-allied guys, some of the big names in the space, agro-allied. We also work with quite a number of FMCGs who operate and trade across Africa. Okay. So it's quite broad range in terms of the service covering and the service offering.
All right, what's your relationship like with the regulators, say for the customs now?
Because, I mean, you're dealing with the road, you talk of customs.
Exactly.
At the ports, you have the NPA. Exactly. You have a lot of regulators to deal with.
We do. And it's always a constant conversation. I would say on the positive side, we have those conversations quite often. And we see that they know the need and the requirements for digitizing this process, right? Africa basically needs to make that move and step away from a manual, opaque system to a streamlined process, basically. Right. So the conversations are always fantastic, right? We can do better. There's always an avenue to do better. And yeah, we're very positive. Eventually, the right steps we're taking the right steps in the right direction.
And what's your outlook for the freight business, you know, going forward in Nigeria?
Well, the outlook is, I'll say, rather positive. Opportunities exist. We need to have a price control in regards to pricing, especially.
What do you mean by that?
So I'll take, for example, typically at the ports, right? Prices go this, right?
directions,
I mean,
right.
and that's the thing. What we don't understand is the more cyclical the prices are, the more it affects the consumer.
Of course.
Right? So the guy who's bringing in, let's say, equipment to start production of sugar. No, sugar is limited to 3. Production of some commodities. If his logistics cost from the port to his factory is 3 times the cost he's used to import those equipments from China, he's going to pass it on to the final consumer, and it affects everybody, myself, yourself, and everybody in the space.
And at the end of the day, we have inflation figures changing.
Correct.
Well, I really have to thank you, Hugh Shola Osidame, partner at OnePort 365.
Correct. Thank you.
More than 360.
More than 360.
Thank you so much for joining
you
us
very
on the
much for
show
having
this
me
morning.
today.
And